Well, hey everybody, Alex here with another cup of coffee video. And for today's video, I got on the phone with Terry from TJ Maxx Vintage Cards to talk about something that I've long wanted to make a video about, which is how baseball cards can go together to create your collection. So before we get started, I want to give a big shout out to Terry for his huge contributions to this video. Thanks again, Terry, and I hope you all enjoy. One of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, Terry, was on your channel, you're often showing different ways that cards can go together. When I first finished my set, I was lost for a while. I didn't exactly know what direction I wanted to go in terms of collecting. And over time, what I kind of realized I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to cherry pick cards. I wanted to pick different cards from different sets. And maybe there would be a logic to it, or maybe I would just kind of wing it. I really liked the idea that cards could go together in different ways.
For me, I've been collecting for about 20 years. So my way of collecting has evolved over time. When I first started collecting, I do what a lot of YouTubers do. They get a card and here's my card, and then they put it in a box somewhere. And I did that in my previous house. Like when I had a smaller house, I had a few cases on the walls. And then I moved into a larger home. Well, I have 7 card cases in that room that hold about 242 cards, I think, at any given time. So I look at those as 7 canvases, so to speak, to where I can come up with some really cool, different ideas to display my cards. And I have over 2,500 graded cards. So over the course of a few years, all of them will come out at some point. If I don't display it after so long, I move it because I don't want it if I can't display it. What's the point of having it? So I'm very planned in my purchases. I really am kind of connecting with the game of baseball and wanting to tell the story of some of these players in my collecting.
I've got a baseball card book and I'll flip through it and just looking at all the cards all the way back to pre-war up to, the 50s and 60s and 70s. And what I'm looking for is a card that's just unique or just feels like I haven't seen that a million times before. Maybe it's a guy making a play on the field or just an interesting stance or a bunt or whatever it is that like just feels different from what I already have. And when I can add that to the collection, I'm looking at baseball. I'm looking at baseball, all the way back to the beginning up to the present day. And I'm looking at different guys that contributed. Some of them contributed in a huge way. Some of them are the most obscure guy you've ever heard of, but all of them are a piece of the puzzle, so to speak. And when I look at those cards together, it tells the story. And I just think that there's something really fun about that.
I like all the cards, like the headshots without hats don't bother me because I'll find a way to put it in such a way to where it tells the story because there's a story there. It's from that era. It was a reason why they didn't put a hat on that player. And I just put it in such a display piece to where it fits in. On itself, it's not the most attractive card, but when I put it in a row with other images, it looks different than it would on its own. And so really of all the cards in my collection, every one of them I have a place for.
What I've been so excited to discover in the way that I've been looking for cards is when I finally see those cards together in some really fun, unexpected way, each card raises in value when I see them with each other. Individually, I like the cards, but it's when I see them together that the true value for me kind of comes through. And like you're saying, sometimes it's because maybe there's some kind of connection between the cards in terms of the players or the history, or maybe it's just that, man, these cards really look good together. There doesn't necessarily have to be a rhyme or reason to it. Things like the Babe Ruth postcard, like that Babe Ruth postcard, I didn't even know it existed. It just sort of came up. It just stood out to me as like, wow, that's a beautiful image and it's affordable. But also I could see that Babe Ruth postcard sitting next to my Ty Cobb and my Christy Mathewson and thinking like, this all kind of works somehow.
For me, again, you have to kind of figure out what kind of collector you are. There's all different types of collectors. So you have, an idea of how you want your cards to look and display. So from there, once you kind of get that out there, then you have to drive what your interests are. So if you like a team, The 1959 White Sox, for example, that went to the World Series that year, the Go-Go Sox. Well, 59 was the culmination of their success by going to the World Series, but they had good teams in the late 50s, more than just that team in 59. So you could put together cards that tell the story of that team from that era. In 59, Early Wynn was a Cy Young winner when they only had one Cy Young in baseball. So he was the Cy Young winner. He was the guy that really carried that team over the top. Now they had Billy Pierce, you could put him in there as well, but Early Wynn was that guy that really got them over the top. So that card is kind of a symbol of their success that got them there. And then they're built on defense. So I showed that Luis Aparicio, 57 tops with the glove down there. And that's like, wow, that's the signifies what that team was. And then the other card was a 60 tops Nellie Fox. I particularly used that 60 tops Nellie Fox because they were a small ball team. And if you look how he's holding the bat, he doesn't always hold the bat like that in his cards. Look at his 57 tops. He's not holding the bat that way. 60 tops, he's choking up on his bat. And that signifies what he was, a small ball, low strikeout, incredibly low strikeout hitter. He was a 59 MVP. He's got the wad of chew in his mouth like he does in every card. So those three cards capture the defense, the pitching, and the small ball hitting and stealing bases of those teams. Reggie Jackson, for example. Reggie Jackson's a fascinating player run. And you see, some other folks, put Reggie Jackson runs together, but I don't really think they look at it the way I look at it. Like his rookie card, he's a young man coming up. He's coming up in the era where Mickey Mantle's retiring. He's that connection. Willie Mays is getting older, Hank Aaron. So you see a very young man there coming up. And then the 72 card, he's got a mustache, right? That is the second player since the T206 set, I believe it's John Titus, to have a mustache on a card. Dick Allen in 71 was the first, and Reggie Jackson's the only player in the entire 72 set to have a mustache. Dick Allen is a stock photo from 1970. It's a previously used photo, so he doesn't have one, but in 71 he did. So you start to see a transition a little bit in how players appear. And then I showed you the 75, and you got Reggie with a full beard. Baseball's a conservative sport, so to speak, and it really started catching up with the rest of American culture at that time. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then you go to the 1980 card, but you could use the 78 as well with his beautiful swing on the Yankees. And here he is at the top of his powers for those championship Yankees teams. And then in the 83 card, this is how I really remember him with those big giant sunglasses. He's the superstar, right? And he knows he's a superstar, and he's known that for a lot of years, but there he's really showing that in that 83 card. And then the 87, I show you, that's when his career is winding down. He's the old man, the fading legend, so to speak, in 87. In those 6 cards that I showed you, look at all that rich history, just 6 cards. And that's how I look at my player runs when I put those together. So I thoroughly enjoy doing those. My mind's always working of what I want to do next. And I'm kind of like you. I've finished what I want to do as far as my runs go, and I'm just kind of free picking away at cards I like.
One of the nice byproducts, I think, of collecting this way is that you're not only going after huge cards. You might be excited to get a card that for anybody else is a common card or not that special, but for you it is because it fits some idea that you have that you're trying to create in your collection. Sometimes I'll pick up a common card and I'm just as excited to get that card as I would be, some iconic rookie card or something like that.
It's in the eye of the beholder, right? I'm about connecting with the cards and capturing the history and building a kind of collection that I'm proud of. There's that balance of the history, the nostalgia, and the visual, the art. Those are the 3 things that drive my collecting. One I'm looking at right now is a 1950 or 51 Bowman, depending on they're the same image. A lot of those were, is the Jim Constanti, who you're familiar with, Phillies pitcher. He was an MVP, 1950 whiz kid. So he has some relevance in baseball history. And what I love about that card is how many cards do you see that actually have a black background? It's a black background. I mean, it's a unique and a bespectacled player too. You don't see many guys with glasses and a black background. That alone is cool to me. It's different. I looked at the card the other day, and there's a couple of them out there I'm looking at right now, and I'm like, wow, that's a different looking card.
Terry, I'm sure that if somebody looked at a lineup of your collection and asked whose it was, they would probably be able to figure out it's yours if they know you, because of how you think and how you get cards. And I think that's really cool too, is like your collecting goals are really specific to you and how you see the hobby, how you see the game of baseball. And I think that's really fun, which is like you get to customize the experience, and it's not random. Like you said, like it's not just I'm just grabbing at random cards. Like I've got a goal in mind. It's my own quirky goal, but it's a goal nonetheless.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I can start filling in my collection with other cards that will add depth to my collection and show my love of the game and show my love of art, and taking those cases in my room, those canvases, and putting things on there that really speak to who I am as a collector and as a lover of baseball. So it's a fun topic. I mean, there's just so many different directions you can go with these cards, and that's why I always kind of find it funny. Where, like I said, people are like, "Well, this is a boring image." Nah, it's really not. If you take it and you find out where it fits in the grand scheme of what you're collecting, it's like I don't want to say there's no bad cards, because there are some bad cards, but there's a lot more good cards out there than people think if you just use your imagination and really take in those cards and really try to understand them and see where they fit.
The idea that a card in and of itself you can appreciate to a certain degree, but once you put that card with a bunch of other cards, it can really elevate your appreciation of that card. And not only that, but it can elevate your collection too.
Right.